Good afternoon and welcome to Marie Mulcahy on the Darwen Health and Wellbeing Show. And today I've got Phil with me. And actually, Phil, it's quite an interesting story about Phil. Phil was actually one of my students on my tarot course, but he's taking a different direction in life. He's going to introduce you and to give you sort of a bit of a background on what he's been doing and where he's headed. But it's really interesting. He's on a new path all to do with wellbeing. Okay, Phil, so over to you. So tell your viewers all about me.
Hi,
My
Maria.
viewers even, sorry.
That's cool. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the great introduction as well. So we met on your tarot card reading course, which was absolutely brilliant. So I guess just a little bit about me was I went through through the education system and finished going to university way back when, and then kind of fell into doing software testing in IT as a career. And then once you've got a couple of years experience in that, you move up the career path, but carried on in software testing and stuff. And then after a few jobs, I kind of decided that software testing doesn't really float my boat. You kind of fall into it and that's what you get used to. And I think there's a saying, isn't there? If you've done something for, I think it's like over 20,000 hours or something, you're almost classed as like an expert in it. So although I knew what I was doing, it kind of still wasn't really in alignment with really my passion and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Then I started doing freelancing software testing, and that actually worked a lot better for me because you go in and you deliver the services that you are hired to deliver in line with your skills and expertise in software testing, but you don't get involved in all the company politics, and you don't get involved in everything else that goes on in the company. You go in, you do your consultancy piece, and go. That works really well for me. I mean, it's as with all these things, it can be a bit double-edged, if that makes sense, because when you're a consultant, it's just a short-term piece of work, and then you've got to go and find the next piece of work. You don't have what can be perceived as the security of being in an organisation. However, I like that because I'm always up for like the next challenge of what's next. So for me, it was kind of, and you get paid a little bit more when you're freelance as well. So it's kind of all upsides for me, and what could be perceived as the safety net of a permanent employer. That doesn't sort of really exist so much in today's modern society anyway.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So I was doing all that, and then I kind of ended up again being a permanent employee in a software testing business, then I thought to and that was trying to grow the business as well. So it was a very small business, and you've got to wear many hats when you're in a really small business. With the business vision, leading the team, working on the core product, doing all the research, going out doing all the sales and marketing. And I ended up finding myself in a position where I thought, this isn't me. And the saying that I always come back to is, what is the point of climbing the ladder when you're on completely the wrong wall?
Yeah. Good analogy, yeah.
Well, it might be the right wall for somebody else, but it wasn't the right wall for me. And I thought, well, I'd already started going down the freelancing, and that resonated better with me. And going back into being a permanent employee, especially having to put so much into trying to grow a small business, and then I just thought, this just isn't right. I don't care if I get to the top of this ladder. It still won't bring fulfillment and happiness. And it's kind of like, happiness is kind of here and now. It's not a when and a where. And I just found it was a bit kind of like chasing whatever you're supposed to be getting to get to this perceived lifestyle of achieving this stuff, but it just didn't work for me. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm gonna leave this, and I'm gonna decide what to do next. And that's where I am. That's where I am today, actually.
Okay.
So and it was just very interesting because, you know, when you're out of alignment with in work and stuff, then a number of other areas of your life can also get to be out of alignment. So it's so important to be, when you're working, to be, you know, doing the right things, that you do something that you enjoy, you know, and then almost like when you're enjoying what you do for work and delivering the service, then a lot of the other areas of your life can all fall into place. So, you know, at the moment, I just thought, right, I'm going to take some time out and really decide what I want to do next. I don't just want to leave and then fall back into the same sort of thing going forward. So that's a little bit about my past and to where I am now. Do you want to hear about you know, what I'm doing now? And
absolutely. What you plan to do, because you're I'm not plugging my own tarot here, but the fact you took on tarot reading learning must be a sign of where you wanted to go and how you wanted to approach your life in a different way. So I guess that is probably an intro, isn't it, into where you're headed, I guess.
It is. Do you know what was really interesting about tarot card readings and stuff was actually one of the first things I found on the very first session that we did was, I'm not really into like reading text and text and text. Some people can get lost in a book. I can't. I'm a lot more visual and a lot more visionary, like bigger picture thinking.
Yeah.
And I really get that out of tarot cards. I can connect with the colours, and I can just, like, you know, I can see like a vision from each card, if that makes sense, of possible things that are happening and all of this sort of stuff. So I really found that was a great connection. One of the things that I'm looking at doing is a good old Healthy Spirit in Didsbury, doing tarot card readings there, which will be absolutely brilliant. And then I believe it was your recommendation as well for having a look at some of the bars, maybe like in the Northern Quarter in Manchester, or also Southside, Chorlton, Didsbury, where I live, going to some of the bars and doing tarot card readings there. That will help support these places as they reopen, because you've got extra things going on to help bring people in.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, all good practice for me, if you like, as well. So, and what's really nice is the people that come for tarot card readings, and I've done a few of them now, all on Zoom, of course, at the moment, but, you know, for people far and wide, all over the UK so far, but really interesting people, you know, they're all like really nice people that are looking for help and support, and almost like guidance, if you like, for dealing with perhaps a particular challenge or a particular thing that's on their mind.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you can like help support them through that in the session is a really great thing to do. So that's cool. One of the other things that I'm just working on as well is we've just relaunched Potentialisation, which is a meetup group which is all about achieving potential through your own unique gifts and talents.
Okay.
And basically, that is so we do weekly talks on a Wednesday night, and it's all on Meetup under Potentialisation if anybody's interested in attending. And it's all to do with, you know, you get in different speakers on emotional intelligence, on neurolinguistic programming, on all sorts of things, just to help people improve so that they can be the best that they can be. And that's great to be involved in, again, because the people that you get to meet are just really nice, and they're all just trying to improve themselves to live a little bit more authentic life, as I guess we're all trying to do, if that makes sense.
Can I just take you back there, because there's there's some terms in there that not everyone may be, you know, aware of or understand. So emotional intelligence, can you give us a sort of potted version of what that is? And then NLP as well, because again, these are terms that people may have heard of, but they won't really have connected with or know too much about.
Sure. So emotional intelligence is kind of understanding emotions both within yourself. So when you feel an emotion within yourself, it's kind of like, well, what's causing this? So you know, it's kind of like so if you experience a negative emotion, what's caused that is what's just happened, been triggered by a past event, or perhaps something that could have happened in your childhood. But it's kind of understanding how emotions are, you know, how emotions come up and what triggers them, and then how to also handle them and all the different types of emotions when they are present. And as well as, I mean, it's it's always really good to learn more about yourself. But also you can then understand other people better and what emotions they have and what triggers them. And then hopefully if we can all learn from that, then we can all work better together. So that's kind of emotional intelligence. And NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, which is basically, how can you put it, kind of like it's the mind and the brain, and how language and images, etc., all trigger the brain. So a couple of examples I like to use on that are language. So the words that we speak and the story that we say to ourselves, is basically the software of the mind. So the words you speak is the software of your mind, and the story you tell to yourselves is the software of your mind. You change your thoughts, and you can change those beliefs. And a lot of the time, we tell ourselves a lot of limiting beliefs. But if you change that, then it eventually filters through into the lower levels of the mind, subconscious mind, and then that becomes true for you. And also, with like neuro-linguistic programming, as kind of we were talking about pictures, and one thing there is if you have a negative experience, it's been proven that if you turn the images in your mind of that negative experience into black and white, and then make it get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, it decreases in its in how powerful that image is, and you can replace it with a real vivid, bright coloured, very large image of something that you're really well attracted to, such as like a really nice natural setting with an amazing waterfall, something like that. And you can then elevate your well-being that way. So so those are those couple of terms. Hope that helps.
No, that gives a really good insight. So have you trained in these two disciplines, or is it something you want to do?
Well, interesting you say that. I've actually been to what I call Phil's Automobile University.
Okay.
When I was doing my freelance software testing, you've got to quite often basically go where the jobs are, which involves quite a lot of driving.
Okay.
And you'd be driving, like especially like in the north, trying to get across the Peak District and stuff like that. It's only 40 miles, but it takes quite a long time to go over the Peak District, etc.
Yeah.
So I used to listen to like a load of audio books.
Okay.
And I just thought, well, why don't I listen to books that are going to help me understand my clients and my clients' needs, and speaking to the people on the client sites and engaging with the different people and the different personalities that you meet in different businesses. And so that's kind of where it all came from. So I've learned a lot about them. I've not done any formal qualifications in them as yet. Having said that, I have signed up to do both emotional intelligence and NLP practitioner courses.
Okay.
So they're work ongoing, and I'm really enjoying doing it as well.
Oh God, this is fascinating. So which are you going to use both of these disciplines in your new role or your new project, or are you going to dip in as and when? Because how do you sort of see all these kind of skills you've got bringing together, because they're obviously relevant to well-being and they will drive well-being. So how are you going to formulate your offering? What is your offering going to be, or is it still kind of in the planning stages?
It is in the planning stages, but the way in which it's coming together is I'm basically going to be what I'm calling a transition coach.
Okay, yeah.
It's anybody that wants to make a change in their lives for the better and help coach them through that process using all the skills and techniques and exercises, etc., that I've got in my repertoire to support people through that. That could be a career change. For example, one of the things we're seeing with COVID is that a lot of people are unfortunately out of work.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and they could be going through a redundancy or outplacement at the moment. So it's helping support them really kind of understand what their true values and their marketability, what really resonates with them, and how they want to go forward. It could also be people actually in businesses that want to progress through the career path within that business. Again, even if you're going for an appraisal, it's always good to understand what roles and responsibilities and jobs there are out there, so that you can understand your values, your marketability, and what skills and attributes that you've got that you'd like to offer to the organisation, so you can be the best you can be to progress through the career path and deliver the best and in service, and in so getting the best remuneration. It could also be people moving house, because that's a big headache for a hell of a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a big stressor. Yeah.
Big stress, but there's simple steps that you can take to, basically what I call let go and look forward, because a lot of the time you can see a lot of, you can't always see the wood from the trees and all that sort of stuff, but it takes somebody else who is just outside, just, like a step back from it, to help you see that clear path, because there is, of course, that saying that sometimes you can't see the picture when you're the one that's in the frame.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes somebody else's belief in you and your path for your own faith to kick in. So it's helping people make those changes in whatever they be, to improve their life authentically, basically.
Very, very, very interesting. So I'm going to put you on the spot here about something, but I know you'll be able to deliver. I'm thinking, because you talked about, which we all know, a lot of people have lost their jobs during COVID. So there could possibly be people listening to this that are in that boat. They've lost their job, and with losing their job, especially at this time when it's quite a bleak time, they've probably lost all their confidence, their motivation, their self-belief. So is there a simple, I don't know, using your skill set, a simple approach that they could look at and think about to move themselves forward? Because I like the idea of the picture changing and using, changing the small picture to the bigger picture, the bright colours. I see how that would work with the brain and how that would trigger it. So have you got something that, I don't know, just like a format that people could, if someone that's in that position could actually use today, you know what I mean? Because they're having, say they're at home, they're having a really down time, they're sort of searching on the internet for jobs and they can't find anything, and they're just getting more and more disillusioned. Something that can suddenly break that pattern, like today, and make a really significant difference in their life and move them, forward, if that makes sense. And that's quite a lot to put pressure onto there. But I just think you can. I think you can pull something together that would really give some insight.
It makes complete sense, and I've been there myself as well.
Cool.
And where you think, what am I going to do now? All of this sort of stuff. I've been made redundant, at least 2 times that I can remember, possibly more. All this sort of stuff. It is a really difficult time to go through, especially, if you've got a lot of bills coming in and you've got and you're relying on that paycheck, and through no fault of your own, you find yourself in this very, very difficult situation. What I would definitely say is that there's a couple of things actually. Is one thing is, you are the product. Everybody has their own personal brand that we are completely responsible for. So it's not that you worked for company ABC, it's kind of how you perform that company. And still be made redundant even if you performed absolutely brilliantly. So it's all about knowing your own self-worth, and that you still have a magnificent value. And it's perhaps also that, let's say, for example, I've worked in software testing, but that comes with a number of transferable skills that aren't always necessarily obvious, that aren't necessarily directly related to actually writing software tests and test scenarios, etc. Those kind of skills are things like working in teams, working by yourself on particular projects, creative thinking, problem solving, and analytical thinking, questioning detail, and just all of this sort of stuff. And those are all things that, for example, transferable skills that you could actually use if you're working in, for example, a coffee shop or something like that.
Yeah,
you know, you can be a team leader, and you can make sure that you can cross-check all the stocks that are coming in and everything like that. So there's a load of transferable, and all the people skills will come into play there. There's a load of transferable skills and brilliant things that people have that they don't necessarily see. And sometimes the reason they don't see them is it's just who they are as a person. And sometimes the skills that we see that we got that we think have a value are the ones that we have to actually work hard to obtain because it's like, perhaps not necessarily who we are, like getting your particular qualifications and stuff, but everyone as a person has an amazing value. So one thing I would definitely recommend is to just write down everything that you think you can deliver to an organisation, who you are as a person. Are you a people person? Do you prefer to work by yourself? All of these have a value. And then also, like, what particular skills that you've got that you want to take forward, and also things that you want to learn. Organisations are keen for people, that want to learn. And, if this is your own authentic list of what you want to do, then you're really going to progress well at it because it's who you are as a person and what you want to do. So, and it can be hard, but try and work out what you want to do as a person. What's your description of who you are, what you want to do, and where you want to go, as opposed to look for a job role and try and fit yourself into that. It's almost like turn it on its head. Because I used to do the same thing as well. I'd look for a job role and think, well, that's okay. I think I could do it, and then try and fit myself into it. Whereas all the best jobs that I've had have been, right, what do I want as a person? What service can I deliver? And how can I help and support this business and work forward from there?
Excellent. So this is brilliant. This is really, really useful stuff that people can actually use. So I'm just thinking, how would you approach that? Say, I don't know, let's say we picked up the Guardian today and we saw an ad in the Guardian, and I don't know, it's something that's outside of your field, but if we've done the piece of work you've done, which is great and that's really, really useful, and this is the sort of person I am, this is it, how would they then take the person they are and what they want to do and what the role they want to do, and look at that, that black and white job spec that says you have to have this, this, and this. How would they then, when they approach that potential employer, how would they turn all their new approach towards that job advert to convince the recruiter at the other end that they're the right person? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
how would they approach it? Because they might, I don't know, they might have been a mechanical engineer, for example, and they want to move into, I don't know, interior design. So they're an amazing interior design. They've done lots for their friends or whatever, but they've not actually worked in that profession. But they've created that. They've done what you said. They've done that piece of work. They've kind of visualized themselves as an amazing interior designer. It resonates with them. They're really feeling that role. How do they then, in this quite really tough market, then convince that person to basically, look at their CV and go, yeah, okay, I'm going to call you for an interview, because everything's still done by CVs, as we know. How do they bridge that gap? Because it could be really powerful. What you're saying could be really powerful for people. That's what I'm thinking if I'm sitting here listening.
Sure. So what's really interesting there is that it shows you can say that it shows that somebody is taking ownership and responsibility for the path that their life is taking.
Okay.
They're not on the conveyor belt of I've been a mechanical engineer for 10 years, 20 years, or however long, so that's all I can do now. It's basically saying, okay, I've done this path, that's got me to where I am, great, because it might have enabled you to get some things in your life and give your life an amount of stability, etc., so that you can now, but you're actually at that point, you decide, actually, this isn't for me. This isn't what I want to be doing, and I want to be an interior designer. So I would absolutely suggest to kind of do your research and everything on interior design, and write down all your skills and attributes that you think you can deliver. And kind of a way of potentially doing this is writing down everything from being a mechanical engineer in one column, and then in the next column write interior design, and then write down how that skill or attribute could apply to interior design, and see how it can transfer over. Because even, like a mechanical engineer, I don't really know anything about mechanical engineering, but I would imagine there'll be things in there, as we sort of mentioned earlier, about working with teams.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. I know nothing about mechanical engineering, but we're just putting it out there. But yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And also, I would imagine that there'll be things in there that will be analytical thinking, and also kind of like measurements and all sorts of stuff. And all of that stuff, working with suppliers, working with teams, understanding the individual's needs, and doing all the measurements and everything like that is directly relatable to interior design. But the difference is you've got that passion, and I think particularly when you're speaking to people, that passion will come through, and so that in itself gives you momentum in that direction. And also kind of, are you okay to perhaps, let's say, take a bit of a pay cut if you want to go in at a more entry level, because if that's what resonates with you, then then that could be far more fulfilling as a career than having, let's say, getting paid a little bit more and not being in a fulfilling career. I know myself, when I've not been in a fulfilling job, I've sometimes had to spend some of that money on going on a nice break, spending a lot of money just because I wasn't happy in my job.
Yes.
It's almost a bit counteractive, or going out and getting drunk at the weekend or whatever because you've had a rubbish week of work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You don't have to do that if you're working in something that you really love. It's almost like your hours of service. You don't sort of see them as work. You see them as service, because you're working with the flow rather than going against the grain. So, but one other point that I just wanted to touch on as well is that kind of do look for alternative ways in. Loads of people will produce a CV and speak to recruiters, but that's the conventional way in. There's loads of alternative ways into places.
Oh, please tell us. This is very exciting. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Well, it could just be things like go on LinkedIn, and if there's a particular interior design business that you would like to work for, then do a search on LinkedIn, see who works there, connect with the people, and kind of be authentic about it as well. Just say things like, I love your business, I love everything you do. Would you possibly be up for a chat about it and all that, so you can connect with that person as well, or even visit the shops as well. If it is something that has shops or has something the public can go, join different groups like Meetup, like we mentioned Meetup earlier. I'm sure there'll be kind of interior design groups and all that sort of stuff on there. One interesting thing that we learned when we were doing sort of software testing actually as well was, if you go to a software testing or IT convention, it's just full of people in IT and software testing. But if you go to a convention that is like on fire safety, for example, then you'll be the only one there that's delivering the service of software testing. So if somebody's looking for it for their website or something like that, then you'll be far more likely to be picked out. So you might want to try and mix it around a bit and go, I want to do interior design, but I particularly want to do, for example, commercial interior design for shops. So what you can then do is, when we're allowed to or whatever, go shop fitting expo, and you might have a load of shop fitters in there that can fit out shops brilliantly, but they don't have a design flair. But you'll be the one there that's got the interior design flair, and you can then work with those shop fitters to deliver that service. And you can both help. The services will complement each other, and you might be able to help them get clients, they can help you get clients, etc. So it's about just finding different ways in.
Yeah, not the conventional route. And I think That's really nice, especially if you're one of those unfortunate people that's stuck and they've gone through redundancy in COVID. It's bad enough being made redundant outside of something like COVID, but being made redundant in COVID. Can you imagine what that does to you and how it can really floor you? So I think that, yeah, like you're saying, using those your skills, understand what you're saying is understand yourself, who you are, what you want to be, and not just put yourself into a box just for the sake of earning a paycheck. It's more about think longer, think harder about what's important to you, and then but also I think a bit of this is a bit of a law of attraction, because what you're saying is you'll attract what you really want if you put yourself, like you said, within the flow. And that's what it's about going in the flow, being in the right place. Because I like the idea, the LinkedIn stuff, that's great. I like the conventional idea, that makes a lot of sense, because you're standing out from the crowd, because you're not putting yourself in the same environment as everyone else that's doing what you do. So it's just thinking outside the box, and that's got to be a good thing for people, and it's got to be. And I think that's probably going to be the way that recruitment will probably go, because everything's changing. So recruitment will probably change as well. And yeah, it's just, I think, so if people are prepared to sort of stand back, like you said, stand back, reevaluate themselves and where they are, their chances of success are actually huge. Whether at the moment they're probably feeling, oh my God, I'll never get there, I'm not going to be stuck like this forever. And, and they're probably coming up against recruiters that are, that are just blocking them because they're not fitting, that particular role, spot on, tick box, tick box. So what you're saying, you're actually empowering people with your approach, going, yeah, that's the standard approach, but actually you can have your own approach and do it like this, which I think is it's a very, very, very valuable way of looking at things. So I think you've got something there. Something.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, these are just some of the things that I've used, but exactly like you were saying, it can be a very, very difficult time for a lot of people at the moment, especially if they're not clear of what path they want to go on.
Yeah.
It can be very hard. So, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's really important. And a lot of people don't know their passions and visions, etc., which I don't know what mine is. But if you don't, one thing I would definitely say to people is just follow your curiosity. And if you just follow your bite-sized chunks of curiosity, that will then lead on to creating, your passions and your visions, because you'll get to explore different things, and don't be afraid of failing and stuff. So it's easier said than done though, but there are different things you can do to help and support you. There are different frameworks that can be used, and also kind of at the end of the day, we all need to pay bills and stuff, but if you are out of work, but you get this bigger picture thinking of like who you want to be and where you want to go and what your passions and visions are, then if you perhaps then getting a part-time job, or a job that perhaps you're just doing to get the money in to pay the bills, that job can then feel a lot more rewarding, or you don't put as much focus on it because you're using it for something greater, you're using it for something bigger. So let's say this mechanical engineer has been made redundant and wants to do interior design. Well, when they're building out their portfolio, perhaps they're creating an Instagram page, they can market themselves, and when they're applying for the interior design stuff, they might be able to take like a part-time job doing, either in a coffee shop like we mentioned, or something online, paying the bills. That's not really their passion, but they know they're using it for the bigger picture. So there's all sorts of ways around doing it, basically.
No, I think it's great. That's really, really interesting. So where do you see yourself? Where do you see your bigger picture? Where do you think you'll go? I know you're still sort of dabbling at the moment, and you're not 100% committed, but there seems to be a path. Do you see yourself going down more wellbeing, more down counselling, more career coaching? Where do you see yourself? Or is it are you still going with the flow with it and see where it goes?
So I really see myself as kind of a transition coach.
Oh, you said, sorry, transition coach. Sorry.
So it is just supporting people through change. Change can be scary. Change can be very, very difficult, especially if it's something that's been forced on you through no fault of your own, which is common with a lot of people at the moment. And I'm doing this through career coaching, life coaching, and through the potentialisation meetups, helping some, getting in some great speakers there. And I'm also kind of advising businesses as well, if they're making changes in their IT, because I've got a lot of IT skills from over the years, on different options and choice, particularly when it comes to software testing and quality, and what services to use and tools to use and resources to use there, advising them on the best ways to go forward to get the most out of those services. And of course, tarot cards. So,
yeah.
And it all kind of fits in together quite nicely, really.
Totally. Because you're using those to give people guidance, but also, as you found out through doing the tarot, it is really rewarding. It's really nice when you someone sits in front of you and you however we divine the information, however we get it, and you see that person light up, and you can actually see them physically relax because they're going, oh my god, I've got a solution. And it's not like we've given them the solution, we've just enabled them to find the solution. And it's really powerful, and I don't think people appreciate enough what it is, because I think people have such a stereotypical view of tarot reading, the lady at the end of the pier, oh yes, cross my palm with silver and I'll tell you about your new husband kind of thing. It's so much more beyond that, because you've got that human interaction, and you can really, it's like counselling without formal counselling. Not saying that I'm saying we're all counsellors or anything like that, but you really can have a really profound impact on someone's life, I think. So and it all blends together with what you're doing, and I think that's a really unusual offer that you're going to have, to offer. And I think I think you'll get loads out of it, because I think it'll be fascinating. Totally. And it is that, because people do want a more authentic way of living. And I think people are, if they listen to their body and what it's saying, I'm just talking about physicality here now, to do with illness and stuff like that. If more people actually listen to their body, they wouldn't go down the chronic illness path, because they know when something wasn't right, because they'd feel it in their body. But we're so programmed to ignore things, work through things. And if this is what I'm getting really kind of like out there with it. If this kind of thinking was taken into something like the NHS, oh my God, can you imagine how much money they would save and how many lives they would save? So it's just like, it's got a huge potential, is what I'm saying. And but I like the point you made earlier on about people being accountable. You're helping people to be accountable for themselves. I think that's what I think holds so many people back, because they're not accountable for themselves, and they feel like, I've got no control over this. I've got to stay on that same treadmill. I've been on it for like 30 years or whatever. And if I break this, oh my God, people are going to judge me, or they're going to say, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And I'm going to lose my wonderful lifestyle if I have a wonderful lifestyle. So it's all about that building confidence. I think it goes back to those basic building blocks, isn't it? Building confidence and belief in people, and then taking responsibility. And I think it's those little bits, step by step, and then it's not being fearful. And like, I know you don't fear change, but a lot of people do. But there's a reason, and it's trying to pick away at why they fear change, because it's kind of like you're having to rebuild them and then send them out in the world. That's what I kind of see you doing. So I think it's really so much that can be done with this kind of work. And I can really see you working in big corporations doing this work, because it can't be easy for like HR managers when they're going through the whole redundancy, process, and who do we make redundant and what do we do, and working with people in that process. So when, I don't know, so many people, well, there'll be reasons like people made redundant. It'll be business, or be like actually their role's no longer viable and the technology's changed so much. Whatever the reasons. But if they were working with if HR were working with someone like you, with, I don't know, say 10 people that have been earmarked for redundancy, and you've worked with a plan for them, you could make such a difference to their lives, because they could be like, actually, now I want to be a water skier. I never thought I could be a water skier. Now I can go and do this because I've got my redundancy paycheck or whatever it is. I can go and do that. And also they'll be thinking in a different way. So I think I think you've really got something here, the way you're blending it all together, and the tarot definitely comes in there. It's like, I just feel you're on the edge of something really, really big. So that's just talking through it with you and putting it into context, and I can really see, I think there'll be a real demand for what you're doing, And and like you said, the getting people to reach their potential, because people never feel they reach their potential, don't they? And they're always at school, they say, oh, you had so much potential at school, what happened to it? And then you get broken down by the system, and then you end up boxed off. And so it's getting people to reconnect with themselves, isn't it, really? I think people have lost connection with themselves, and it's that whole soul work. Get in touch with your soul. What's your soul saying to you? What's your body saying to you? And like you said, align all of those, and then suddenly things will come together. Well,
Yeah.
really, really interesting. No, really interesting. I can really see this. I can really see where you're going with this. So, blimey, that was powerful. God, you never know with my show where things are going to go, I can tell you. But this was really, really, really interesting. Well, Phil, we're coming towards the end, and you've covered a lot of interesting concepts and ideas. And I think you've given people really some real food for thought. So if people want to reach out to you, to work with you in whatever shape or form, because there will be a way, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. So the best way to get in touch with me is to you can either send me an email at philfacey@hotmail.com, which is PHILFACEY@hotmail.com. Or you could give me a call on my mobile, which is 07460832061. And you can also look me up on LinkedIn. Phil Facey on LinkedIn.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, I'm just going to round this up now for my listeners. I'm going to come straight back to you, so bear with me. So thank you very much, Phil Facey, for today, because that's been fascinating. It's given me loads to think about as well, never mind, all my listeners. So I'm going to come straight back to you. I'm just going to sort of close things off for today. So I'll be right back to you.